work on Windows. So, funnily enough, I know I don't normally go there, but we need to run in the cloud because it needs to run 24 hours a day. And so what I've done is I created a Windows VM. We've made some improvements to Windows VMs. So what we've done is that when you set up a Windows VM in, if I do create VM like this, you can call it what you like, Windows, and then four cores, 8192. When you set it up, and the moment it sees that when you go to here and set the ISO, it'll automatically set up the disks and networking so it'll work properly with Windows VM. So I'm just going to run this. So this is the way it looks when you run it. So you'll get a blank screen. So basically, I've not installed this yet. So I've not installed Windows. So I just get a blank screen with the cursor, which is very exciting, as you can see. But this, I did sit there and think that something's wrong, but this is actually just booting off of the ISO. We've also got now we support images and different formats, and we convert them into WolfStack, and the same with Proxmox as well. We can, if you're running WolfStack on top of Proxmox, you can use different formats of file. So this just basically runs. If you manually have a I don't know if you know this. Let's move this out of the way. So in the settings, I can't show you the settings because they're done. So basically, there's some settings. If you look at the disk and the network, they need to be set to Windows compatible. But as I said, if you're setting up a new one with the ISO, it'll pick up that it's Windows and automatically set them. The other thing that WolfStack does is, because we've got Wolfnet, which is a Mesh 6 network that comes with WolfStack. So basically, it's just across everything. It means everything can talk to everything, and it's a private network. Even if your machines are remote from each other, well, Wolfnet doesn't really care. So what WolfStack does is it sets up a tiny DHCP server with just one IP address for this VM. So that means this VM is not going to ask for any network configuration. Let me just do next here. I'm going to install it. We hardly ever use Windows. All our machines are Linux. Because we're doing a lot of server stuff and coding, and we've written this in Rust with obviously a web front end. And so, okay, so I'm just going to say I don't have a product key because this is going to be destroyed in a minute. So next, and you can see it just always perfectly. I'm actually running on a Linux. You can see that this is the Linux desktop, and WolfStack we've got running remotely on servers. So there you see it says drive allocated base 100 gig. It doesn't actually use 100 gig because it's got auto expanding stuff. So we just wait now for it to load. But yes, as I said, what you'll see is that when it hits, it'll never ask you for any network information. It just sets up the Wolfnet network, which means you get straight away access to the internet without fiddling around. Because I don't know about you, but dear listener, but I've found in the past one of the most frustrating is that you do have to fiddle around with the network to even just get the machine to have access to the internet. And it's the same with setting up software defined networks as well. It's just painful. So with Wolfnet, when you install WolfStack, it creates a Wolfnet network, and then as you add more nodes to it, they just become more nodes to that cluster. They just become part of that network, and it's all automated, so you don't have to deal with it. And if you want something on a Wolfnet IP to talk to the outside world, you just use the networking tab, which I can show you quietly while we're waiting. Let's shift this out of the way. So if you want to, so if I go to here, go to networking, you can use public IP mappings to map public IPs out to Wolfnet IPs. So you can see I've got some, so there's two other servers there, but if I go add mapping, this hasn't got a public IP because this is the test server cluster in the office. So if I look at another cluster I've got here, I've got loads of clusters on this one. This is probably a more fun thing to do. So if I go to networking on here, for instance, to do the mapping, so if I do a public IP mapping, it'll automatically pick up the public IPs. There's the public IP of this node, and allow me to set up mapping to a Wolfnet IP. So if you're using WolfCube, for instance, to do like this, these two machines have got a Kubernetes cluster running on WolfCube. It's like a one click, and you've got a Kubernetes cluster. And if you look at Wolfnet on here, you'll see that I've got a local IP address of 10.10.10. Not that one, this one, 10.10.10.5, which is mapped to Jellyfin. So we've installed Jellyfin from the App Store, and we've just upgraded our App Store as well. It's got over 500 different applications running on it. So if you wanted to deploy something, if I quickly nip to the App Store, just choose what you want. There are just masses of applications, and you just deploy them. If you want to deploy them to a Kubernetes cluster, you can. If you want to deploy them to Docker containers, you can. and some of them will deploy on LXC containers. It just depends on really what you want to do. So you just go install, it'll ask you, and you see here it's going WolfCube because you can't run Docker containers natively and WolfCube at the same time. What you can do is run virtual machines and LXC containers at the same time as Kubernetes. So what that means is if you've got a Kubernetes cluster running, you might have loads of extra resource lying around on those servers. And I was interviewed for a YouTube channel yesterday. I was talking about how much I hate wasted resource, and especially these days with, the cost of things rising. If we've got something with, 32 gig of RAM, and we're using 4 gig of it, and it's got loads of processors, but we're using hardly any of it because of its task. It's a bit overpowered for what it's needed. We can put that to good use. Let's pull back to our little Windows installation. Here it is, still going 98%. Anyway, so let's talk amongst yourselves. So other things I can show you on WolfStack just while we're waiting for this Windows to install. And this is installing in a remote machine. So we've got this task list which shows you all kinds of things going on, servers and issues that you've got. So remember that WolfStack has got scanning in, so it'll scan your servers. If you've got AI enabled as well, it enhances that by when it finds something wrong, it'll actually tell you what it thinks you should do to fix it. We don't let AI fix our servers because I just think it's dangerous. I just think it's really dangerous because you know how much AI can misread something. So for instance, I'll give you an example. We've got we own something called Wolf Territories Grid. Do come and visit if you want to. And all of those servers have like 190 gig of RAM. So WolfStack may think that there is a problem if it gets to about 90% of RAM, and sometimes they do, but it's really not a problem. So WolfStack might try and fix things by rebooting things, etc. And we just don't want it to do that. So we don't let AI do anything except give us advice and look for problems and issues. In fact, this morning we had one machine that was running very, very high in terms of its RAM, and it was quite consistent in all the reports. So we then just rebooted some stuff, got it going again. So this is Windows booting up. As you can see, it's in a web browser. There's no special, you don't have to do any installation or special stuff. Sorry about the people walking past my office. There you go. So it's just booting Windows now. I mean, the other thing you can do is, don't forget, you can build a hybrid system. So if you wanted to run something under Windows and then you wanted to access shared storage or something, you could create a Docker container with a WolfStack IP and then share the storage. And then Windows on this one can access the storage because they're all on the same private network. And the other beautiful thing about having these Wolfnet private network is that you can do things like have all your database servers on them and only expose, so you'd only expose your web server, for instance, using the networking tab, and then the rest of it stays that way. I thought, do you know what? I thought this was going to be a short video, but I'm waffling on. So while we're waiting for this to get sorted, huge thank you to all our backers who are, even if you're just backing us with a small amount through our GitHub sponsorship, we really do appreciate it because it just helps us find, book programming time into actually managing and maintaining and building new stuff into this and providing new platforms that it runs on. Anyway, I think I'm going to you can see it's working. In fact, what I can do is actually show you on another server. I'll show you on another server. Okay, I'll just we can let that sit there and run in the background. This one's actually got one that's actually working. Oops, that's migrating. I don't want to migrate it. I just want to pull it out. No, that was migrating again. This is the thing, you see, I've got, if you look at my icons on my desktop, they're the same as the icons in WolfStack because you can actually see it. Oh, it's not running, that's why. So I'll just run this one. See, as VM started. So this one is actually a working copy of Windows that I've already installed. So, and you can install as many as you want, but you've got to watch your resources a little bit, of course. But don't forget, this is running on a server that's also running Kubernetes cluster as well. It's absolutely not a problem. Okay, there you go. Just log into this one. Here's one I prepared earlier. Blue Peter. There you go. So yeah, you can see it runs pretty well on a remote server that hasn't got anything special in it. I basically use this to run MetaTrader 4 to give you an example. And see, it works pretty well. It's pretty fast, even though I've given it no resources really, and the server it's running on is not that powerful. Yeah, so there we go. So that's all I'm going to do. If you want to install Windows as a VM, you can. and then you can hook it up using Wolfnet. You can actually hook it up to Linux applications that are running elsewhere. So, for instance, for us with that, we are going to run some Python. So we're probably going to build we'll probably build an XC with a Python thing. And you might say, why don't you run it under Windows? Well, we don't really need to. Can we'll probably run the services under the Python services, one of these little LXC containers, because they take no resources basically. Just do create container. It's Debian. I like Debian 13 for servers. Select. Just see how easy it is. We give it 2 gig of RAM, a couple of cores, and you see it's automatically created a Wolfnet IP. So I don't even have to do anything. Just hit create container. Apart from setting a password, create container. There you go. It's downloading the template. Just wait for it to set up. It's pretty easy. So WolfStack is open source. You can download and try it. There you go. That's been created for me, and I can just run it. Automatically got an IP address and networking. Automatically connects to the internet. It's on a Wolfnet network, so it's absolutely private. It's absolutely there's no fiddling around. So wolfstack.org is our beautiful website where you can find out all about WolfStack. Look at some of the comparison charts of how it compares to other platforms. So if you want to become one of our backers, help fund it, that would be really cool. Otherwise, just enjoy it and join our Discord and follow us on r/Wolfstack on Reddit. That'd be really good. Thanks very much.